Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome. We're just waiting on a few more attendees to get online, so we'll just give it another 20 seconds or so. All right, that should just about do it. A very warm welcome to you all, wherever you are located in Australia, and thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar. Now, the topic, of course, we're going to have a bit of a deep dive into is annual leave. And we wanted to explain both the obligations and the risk for employers. However, in response to our recent focus on psychosocial hazards in the workplace, we thought we'd expand the scope of today's webinar and take you one or two steps further into perhaps some of the unanticipated risks that employers can come across when considering annual leave. Now, today's topic is sure to generate a lot of interest and a lot of questions. If you do have questions that you would like to have Tash answer at the end of this session, could I please ask that you put them in the Q&A part of the Zoom rather than in the general chat. We find that's a much better area for us to be able to address those, prioritize them, or even group them together so that we're actually able to cover off, I guess, the hottest topics to answer as many questions as possible. So today I would like to welcome Tash, who joins us from the telephone advisory team and is a experienced workplace relations consultant. And myself, Alistair McDonald, I'm the commercial director for the organisation. I've been here a little over 10 years, and I'm actually stepping in for one of my colleagues, Mark, who is unfortunately off ill today. So I do apologise that you're stuck with me. However, we have a lot of great content to cover off. So let's rip into it. For those of you joining us for the first time or new to the group, I thought it'd be prudent to quickly touch upon what it is that we actually deliver to Australian businesses. On the right-hand side, Citation Legal is our in-house law firm. We started life as this law firm 35 years ago. And ER, IR, and workplace relations is the only law that we practice. We work with some of Australia's most well-known brands to help them navigate one of Australia's most complex landscapes when it comes, of course, to the Fair Work Act and the onerous requirements placed on employers. Down the bottom, citation certification is the latest offering within the group. We are, in fact, Australia's second largest certified accrediting body for ISO certifications. So that is businesses looking to reach best practice in regards to quality, cybersecurity, work health and safety, and environmental. And then, of course, we have the brand which brings us all together today, Citation HR and Citation Safety. These offerings have been around for the last 10 years and are in fact the fastest growing part of the group. We provide outsourced solutions that provide an end-to-end offering around the employee lifecycle and an integrated work health and safety offering for SMEs looking to stay on top of all facets of people management. When designing today's topic, we realised that there is so much more to annual leave than initially meets the eye. 30 to 40 years ago, the Australian workplace was characterised by absenteeism, the impromptu, long weekend with someone chucking a Monday sickie. But over the years, that has shifted and changed towards a worrying trend in the opposite direction, really towards presenteeism, and in some ways a reluctance to take leave or to be seen to be stepping back from meeting your obligations to your employer as the employee. This can often come with some pretty serious unanticipated consequences to productivity. And that has been characterised in the latest report shown by the Productivity Commission, which actually shows that psychosocial injuries are costing businesses a staggering $43 billion annually. And psychosocial, or the most common psychosocial hazard, is, of course, burnout. Now, annual leave was designed and enshrined in the Fair Work Act to ensure that employees have sufficient time out of the office to recuperate, to rest, to come back recharged, and to be able to do the jobs to the best of their ability. With the current cost of living crisis on at the moment, we are seeing a worrying trend and a worrying spike in calls to our advice line asking about employees who want to cash out their annual leave and just work through what would traditionally be a period where people are taking that leave over the end of year break or the Christmas period. Now, some employers might think that getting a leave balance off your P&L might be a positive, and the employee could see the fact that they have their cash in hand as something solving a problem in the here and now. But today we really want you to think about the unanticipated consequences or what it would mean in the medium to longer term if you are having employees who are approaching burnout, who are having that toll taken on their mental health and who aren't giving themselves the required time to step away from their jobs in order to do it to the best of their ability. And with that, I'll hand over to Tash to take us through what we'll be covering in today's session.
Lovely. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining today's session on annual leave management. Now, annual leave is a crucial aspect of managing a productive and healthy workforce, but it does come with its challenges. So, today we're going to dive into the nuts and bolts of annual leave, as well as some of the key issues that can arise. So, this is just an overview of a few of the topics that we will be discussing, and I'll make sure to discuss some practical examples and solutions along the way so you can walk away with actionable knowledge. So let's get started. So just a quick overview of annual leave. So let's start with the basics. Annual leave is often referred to as holiday pay. It's a paid entitlement for full-time and part-time employees. So for full-time employees, it's 4 weeks or 20 days per year. This is the minimum set by the Fair Work Act. If an employee works part-time, their entitlement is prorated based on the hours they work. So for example, if Sarah, a part-time employee, works 20 hours a week, she's entitled to half of the full-time leave. So 2 weeks of annual leave or 10 days per year potentially. So casual employees, they don't receive annual leave. Instead, they receive a 25% casual loading minimum on the hourly rate to compensate them for the lack of paid leave. Annual leave, however, it's not just about time off. It's about ensuring employees stay healthy, motivated, and engaged in their work. So let's explore the legislative framework behind these entitlements. Annual leave is governed by the Fair Work Act, which establishes the National Employment Standards. So the NES is the minimum entitlements for employees across Australia. This includes annual leave as well as other types like personal leave and parental leave. As an employer, you are obligated to comply with these standards, but compliance is just the starting point of it. Creating a workplace where employees can actually take and enjoy their leave is vital for maintaining employee wellbeing and productivity. For example, if an employee is unable to take their annual leave due to workplace demands or a negative culture, they might end up feeling overwhelmed and overworked and stressed. So it's not just about ticking boxes at the end of the day, it's about fostering a healthy environment. So, the Fair Work Act is a foundational piece of legislation that governs all the employment relationships in Australia. It sets out employee rights and employer obligations in relation to annual leave, and it's designed to ensure fairness and work life balance for employees. For example, an employee who doesn't have enough annual leave to take time off during the year can accumulate leave year after year. However, over time, this can lead to excessive leave balances, which may cause employees to feel burnt out if they're not able to take the proper breaks. By understanding these provisions, you'll be able to put yourself in a better position to manage leave effectively and create a healthy workplace culture. The national employment standards are the minimum standards set under the Fair Work Act for employees. They guarantee at least 4 weeks of paid annual leave for full-time employees, and this can be prorated for part-time employees, as previously mentioned, noting that it does also depend on ordinary hours worked for full-time employees. So if you're unsure how these calculations work, or if you're managing different types of employees, having a good leave policy in place will ensure compliance and smooth operations. Lovely. So, how does annual leave accrue? Annual leave is accrued progressively, meaning it builds up over time as employees work. For full time employees, they earn about 2.92 hours of leave for each work based on a 38-hour week. For example, Megan works 38 hours a week. Every week she works, she earns around 2.92 hours of leave over the course of the year. That then adds up to 4 weeks of paid annual leave, which is around 20 days. Now, managing accrued leave is the responsibility of the employer. You need to ensure to keep track of the balances and ensure that employees use their leave and step in if they aren't taking time off as when they should. Left unchecked, unused leave can lead to large payouts when employees leave or can result in them taking extended periods of time off, which can impact operations quite significantly. So, unused leave. When employees don't take their leave, it rolls over and accumulates year after year. On the surface, this might seem like a manageable situation, but over time, it can become problematic, both for the business and the employee's well-being. So, from a business impact, if an employee's build up a large amount of annual leave, like 8 weeks or more, and decide to take it all at once, it can disrupt the business operations, especially in smaller teams. For example, a key employee, business critical, taking a long period of leave can affect workflow, delay projects, and place added pressure onto others who need to cover their responsibilities in their absence. You've also got the psychosocial risk to think of, but the psychosocial impact of accumulating large amounts of leave goes beyond operational disruption. When employees hoard their leave instead of using it regularly, it may indicate deeper psychological issues. These are a few critical aspects to consider. So, burnout and stress. Employees who don't take their leave may feel like they're unable to fully switch off from work, leading to chronic stress. Over time, this can evolve into burnout, which manifests as physical and emotional exhaustion, lack of motivation, and disengagement. You've got feeling overworked as well. So, the accumulation of leave can be a sign that employees are working under sustained pressure without taking adequate time off for rest and recovery. This can then contribute to a feeling of being overworked and undervalued if they feel like they can't take time off work due to work demands. You've got reduced mental health to consider as well. When employees are unable to disconnect and recharge, they're at risk of mental fatigue, anxiety, and depression. The lack of regular breaks reduce their ability to recover from work related stress, leading to deterioration in mental health. So then we move on to the element of psychosocial culture. A workplace culture that does not actively encourage taking leave can unintentionally send a message that employees are expected to work non-stop. This could then foster a culture of presenteeism where employees feel pressured to work even when they're sick, stressed, or in need of rest, further inflating stress and burnout. So, what can you do as an employer? Encouraging employees to take leave regularly is the key to preventing burnout and maintaining good mental health. So, there are a few strategies that you can implement to address the psychosocial risks of leave accumulation. Promoting regular leave to start off with, actively encouraging employees to take regular breaks and use their annual leave throughout the year, reminding them that taking time off is essential for maintaining mental health and preventing stress and burnout. Leading by example, that's quite a big thing. So, as a leader, model healthy behavior by taking your own leave and demonstrating that it is okay to step away from work when needed. This shows employees that they will not be penalized for taking these breaks, and that in turn will promote them to regularly take annual leave. So, monitoring leave balances, keeping track of employees' leave balances, especially those who are accumulating excessive amounts of leave, and have a proactive measure by having conversations with them, offering support and flexibility to help them take leave in smaller increments, and reducing the risk of long absences that can disrupt work. We've got the final one of creating a supportive culture. So, fostering an environment where employees truly feel comfortable to take leave without the fear of judgment or consequences. Highlighting the benefits of taking leave for both personal well-being and team productivity. Next slide. So, now I will discuss excessive annual leave balances in more detail. So when annual leave balances reaches around 8 weeks or more, that is when they are considered excessive. Now, can depend on your organization if you think 4 weeks or more is excessive. It really is something that is governed by both company policies as well as award requirements. So, when it does get to that stage, it is an opportunity for you as an employer to have a conversation with the employee about taking leave. An employee with a large leave balance might feel burnt out or stressed, especially if they haven't been taking the regular breaks. For example, Tom, a long term employee, has accrued 10 weeks of leave. You notice he seems tired and disengaged at work. This is probably the first warning sign that he might not be taking enough time off. You can approach him with suggestions to take a break and plan how to manage his leave balance over time. So, excessive leave is not just about the financial liability it carries for your business, in terms of paying it out and things like that, but it's more so about ensuring your team stays engaged and healthy and mitigating those psychosocial risks. So then we move on to cashing out of annual leave. So sometimes employees with that excessive annual leave balance desire to cash it out. This might happen for various reasons, such as financial need or scheduling conflicts, but it's really important to manage this quite carefully. So from a governance perspective, under the Fair Work Act, employees can only cash out annual leave if they have at least 4 weeks of leave remaining after the cash out. It's done in writing and the agreement is documented each time, and they're not pressured or coerced to do so. However, I really want to highlight the psychosocial risks that come with the excessive amounts of cashing out leave and continuously allowing employees to do so. So, while cashing out leave may seem like a short term solution, it can lead to significant psychosocial hazards. So, if it does become a regular practice, when employees frequently cash out their leave instead of taking time off, they are missing out on the psychological benefits of rest and recovery, which can lead to chronic stress, which is, without regular breaks, employees may experience this escalating stress and anxiety and burnout, which can negatively affect their mental health. You've got the reduced work life balance. So, cashing out leave instead of taking it can disrupt an employee's ability to fully disconnect from work, creating an unhealthy work life imbalance. You've got decreased productivity. Over time, the lack of restorative rest will lead to mental and physical exhaustion, reducing an employee's effectiveness and engagement at work. You've got the right to disconnect element. So the right to disconnect refers to an employee's right to completely disconnect from work outside of working hours. This includes not responding to emails, messages, or calls, and especially taking time off without the expectation of being on call or available. So, if employees are consistently encouraged or feel pressured to cash out leave rather than take actual time off, they lose this crucial disconnect time, which is necessary for maintaining healthy boundaries and work life balance. You've also got the element of feeling undervalued. So, if employees perceive they are being pushed to cash out leave due to business pressure or culture that discourages taking breaks, they may in turn feel undervalued or that their well-being is secondary to work demands. So, as an employer, it is really crucial to mitigate these risks and avoid the psychosocial risks. So, in order to help manage them, some of the strategies, as previously mentioned, is encouraging regular leave, creating a supportive environment where a culture is fostered where taking leave is viewed as productive and necessary for employee well-being, making sure that they do feel supported in taking that time off when they need it, as well as monitoring trends. So, if cashing out leave becomes a frequent occurrence, it's important for employees to have a conversation with employees about their work life balance and address any underlying issues that may be causing them to forego taking leave. Remember, employees who are regularly taking leave are more likely to return to work feeling refreshed, motivated, and productive. So that not only benefits their mental health and well-being, but an organization as a whole, as it's going to create a stronger workforce and lead to higher productivity levels.
Thanks so much, Tash. Now, we normally stop the webinar just here for a moment. I know Tash has covered a lot of content there. Some it would have absolutely got the wheels ticking in our mind and some questions that may have arisen. So we want to just offer everyone the opportunity and the QR codes up here to be scanned, just to reach out and have a conversation with Tash or one of her colleagues in the advisory team. It's completely obligation free, just in regards to anything that you may have by way of a question. So it could pertain to some of the content we've touched on around leave, annual leave, sick leave, mental health leave, something on psychosocial hazards, or the broader risks that are affecting mental health in the workplace, or any other general question that you may have regarding an employee or your employer obligations. So we'll give you a moment, get out your phone, scan the QR code, and you'll be able to book in a time to have a conversation with one of our expert advisors. Okay, Tash, thanks so much. Back to you.
Lovely. So I will now move on to talking about how you can manage annual leave, and specifically speaking in relation to annual leave policies. Being a part of the TAS team, we do get quite a few phone calls, and it's about disputes with employees taking leave at the same time for like quite a small business who operationally needs one of these team members to be there to actually contribute to their end goal of getting that product out the door. So annual leave policies are quite vital in managing situations like this. So the benefits of having a clear, well structured annual leave policy in place isn't just about following the law and compliance and things like that, but it's also a really good strategic tool that can benefit both your business and your employees. So, the first thing to discuss is effective workforce management. So, a solid annual leave policy helps you manage staffing levels more effectively by knowing when employees are taking leave. You can plan ahead for peak times and ensuring that the business operations continue smoothly. For example, if you have a sales team, when they plan to take time off during peak season, it helps you make sure you have enough team members available to meet those KPIs and targets required. You've then got enhanced employee accountability. So, when the policy clearly outlines accruals, approval process, and responsibilities, it encourages employees to take ownership of their leave. They can plan ahead and manage their time off while you ensure that their well-being is prioritized. So this leads to a more engaged and accountable workforce. You've also got streamlined communication. So, an annual leave policy promotes clear communication between employees and management. It ensures that there's no confusion when requesting leave and everyone knows what to expect. So, it's about setting those expectations up front, which helps reduce misunderstandings and disputes. So, for example, if employees know when they must submit leave requests 4 weeks in advance, they'll do so proactively rather than not having anything in place and them disputing it with you when it comes to the time of them actually needing to take that leave. You've got minimized operational disruption. So, effective leave planning minimizes disruption to day to day operations. For example, operational departments like customer service or production can plan in advance to ensure adequate staffing. If an employee takes leave unexpectedly, your policy can guide how to handle last minute requests without causing panic or chaos. You've then got the data driven decision making to consider. So, tracking annual leave balances gives you access to valuable data about your workforce. You can identify patterns such as whether certain times of the year tend to have higher volume of leave requests or if certain employees consistently take extended periods of leave. So, this allows you to make informed decisions about staffing levels, productivity, and resource planning. You've then got the element of supporting strategic planning. So, with an accurate and up to date leave data system, your business can forecast future workforce needs much more effectively, whether it's planning for a holiday shutdown or adjusting resources for peak periods. So, a comprehensive leave policy provides clarity for long term business planning. You've then got improved employee relationship. So, finally, when employees feel that their leave requests are being treated fairly and their well-being is valued, it's going to lead to stronger employee relations. So, a transparent and consistent leave policy shows employees that you care about their work-life balance, fostering loyalty and engagement. So, this is quite a crucial tool and a very easy tool to implement within our business. We do help a lot of businesses implement annual leave policies, and it is quite an effective tool to maintain leave requests as well as monitor excessive leave balances. Moving on to a very common topic, Christmas and New Year shutdowns. So, especially coming to that time of the year, businesses may close down for a few weeks. So, for employees, this is a time to take time off and recharge. But as an employer, there are a few things to keep in mind. So, firstly, and probably the most important thing, is employees covered by an award or an agreement. So, you can direct them to take leave during shutdown periods if it is specified in their award or enterprise agreement. However, the direction must be reasonable and providing in writing with typically at least 28 days' notice. You've then got the consideration for award and agreement free employees. So even if they're not covered by an industrial instrument as of such, you can still ask them to take leave during shutdowns as long as the request is reasonable. So we've got employees without sufficient leave. So this is a common trend we do get via phone a lot. So what does happen if employees don't have enough leave to cover the shutdown period? So, in some cases, employees can take annual leave in advance or even take unpaid leave if your award or agreement allows for it. This gives them the opportunity to participate in the shutdown without affecting your operations. It's important to ensure that you do have a clear policy outlining this, just so it can opt for the employees to either use that annual leave in advance option or unpaid leave. This helps reduce any potential disputes and maintains a positive workplace culture as well. So, reasonable business grounds for rejecting leave requests. So, rejecting an annual leave request isn't always a bad thing. It's about finding the right balance. So, operational needs might justify refusing leave requests during a certain time. For example, you may not be able to approve leave for Mary, a key team member, during end of quarter reporting because, it's a business critical time. But it is really important to remember that the reason must be based on a legitimate operational requirement, and you should always have written evidence of your decision to reject the request. So I've got a few examples here in terms of reasonable business grants. So you've got operational requirements, staff shortages, training and development, client commitments, and financial considerations. But I think that a good way to actually understand how a request could be deemed unreasonable is for me to actually put it to you in an example scenario. So, just moving on to this scenario that I do have. So, we've got Emma, a customer service representative. She submits a request for 2 weeks off during this holiday peak season. So, recognizing that this is a crucial time for a business, say you're in retail, the manager decides to reject the request, but does so with careful consideration of the potential psychosocial impact on Emma. So instead of flat rejection, the manager explains the reasoning behind the decision, emphasizing the need for the team to be fully staffed during the high demand period. So to mitigate any negative effects on Emma's well-being, the manager offers reasonable alternatives such as taking time off either during a less busier time or after the busy period. So, ensuring Emma has the flexibility to plan her leave without feeling forced to choose between her personal well-being and the demands of the job. So, by offering open communication and clear reasoning and flexible alternatives, the manager helps preserve Emma's morale. So, this approach acknowledges the psychosocial risks associated with feeling overworked or unsupported during stressful periods. The manager shows empathy towards Emma's need for time off, which also then reduces the likelihood of her feeling undervalued or stressed. So, at the same time, while the business does need to maintain productivity during a critical period, while also needing to consider the employee's work life balance. So, the thoughtful approach by taking these steps contributes to Emma's engagement and satisfaction at work, whilst fostering a positive relationship with her and reducing the risk of burnout and disengagement. So, moving on. So, there are a few other types of leave to consider. I won't run through them all. So, you've got annual leave, which is that necessarily 4 week period for full time employees, personal and carers leave, which is around 10 days for permanent employees, compassionate leave, 2 days, parental leave. That does vary depending on organizational policies, but there is also a government policy there as well. Community service leave, long service leave, which does vary from state to state. Family and domestic violence leave, which is 10 days per year. It's important to note that that does not accumulate every year. So it clock resets every year. So it's 10 days per year. And study leave, if that is something that the business choose to offer, and unpaid leave. So a common question we do get on the phone is an employee has 4 weeks annual leave accrued and I don't know, 30 hours of personal leave accrued, but they for some reason want to use unpaid leave, we often refer to that as leave without pay at times. Now, it's a good principle to have that you shouldn't allow them to use leave without pay unless they have really exhausted all of their leave balances. So it's important to really mitigate that just to make sure that they are actually using the leave entitlements that they have stored, and to also help make sure that that doesn't lead to that excessive leave balance. So it's really important to have some annual leave policies, for example, to mitigate the use of leave without pay. Cool. So, look, key takeaways from this presentation that I think is really essential for employers to understand is annual leave just isn't about, ticking the box, making sure that they take their 4 weeks leave. It's about mitigating that psychosocial hazard, which can turn into a psychosocial risk. So, annual leave is essential for employee health, engagement, and productivity. Managing leave balances prevents burnout and improves overall job satisfaction. Clear policies and regular communication are the key to effective leave management. So, it's really important to, I guess, go away from this presentation and understand that, yes, as an employer, you do have the obligation to ensure that they have access to these leave entitlements, but also understanding the deeper meaning to these leave entitlements and the risks that can present if you aren't adequately managing your employees and allowing them to take these periods of leave when needed.
Thanks so much, Tash. There's some really thought-provoking content that we've covered off today. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I can see the Q&A feed going bonkers at the moment, and we will jump into a few of those questions and get Tash's thoughts on those. However, just before we progress to that section, I would ask that everyone take the opportunity to get out their phone and download the new psychological risk management ebook that the team has put together. There is so much to this topic and so much to this subject that really is unanticipated or that isn't immediately evident to the day-to-day management of our staff and our colleagues. This is a great bit of content that the organisation's put together to help employers stay across this and to really think 2 or 3 steps beyond perhaps where they normally would. So if you haven't yet had the chance, please do download the QR code, download your copy, and of course, if you do have any questions or if there is something that's by way of a psychosocial risk in the workplace at the moment, give us a call. We'd certainly be able to help you through that. Now, time for some questions. So thank you to everyone who has submitted a question. And by the looks of it, we won't be able to get through all of them. However, if we haven't got to your question, please rest assured we will touch base with you after the webinar and see if you want to have a conversation with one of our consultants, or hopefully, as is often the case, a few people have the same idea, and an answer to someone else's question may well give you what it was that you were after. So let's get started. Tash, if you're ready, the first question that we've got here: an employee's award or registered agreement permits the direction of annual leave during a shutdown period, so I'm told. What are the key requirements an employer must meet when directing an employee to take leave?
Yeah, so this is a really important question, and I think it's going to come up being this time of year. This is a question that we do quite often get on the telephone advisory service as well. So it's really important to understand that if an employee does fall under one of those applicable industrial instruments, so when directing them to take leave during a shutdown period, you must follow the following key requirements. So you've got reasonable direction. So, ensuring that the timing and duration of the leave are reasonable based on the business needs and the employee's situation. Written notice. This is probably the most important thing to consider. So, providing a written directive for clarity and to document the request. Also, ensuring that you're providing at least a minimum of 28 days' notice before the shutdown so that employees can plan accordingly. This is also something that is specified in most awards and enterprise agreements. You've also got the award agreement compliance, so ensuring that the direction is in line with any specific term in the employee's modern award or agreement, and leave availability. So ensuring that the employee has enough accrued leave, or offering alternatives like unpaid leave if they don't have sufficient leave, or as well as that, leave in advance.
Thanks, mate.
All good.
Okay, next question. If one of my employees has accrued more than 8 weeks of AL, I assume that's annual leave, what potential issues could arise for us and how can we address these?
Yeah. So, look, when an employee accumulates more than 8 weeks of leave, several issues can arise. Now, from a business's perspective, you've got the financial liability. So, large leave balances can lead to a significant payout obligation if an employee leaves. So, the solution to that, encouraging employees to take regular leave and ensuring adequate cash flow for potential leave payouts. You've then got the employee burnout element. So, employees may accumulate excessive leave because they are overworked, which then will lead to burnout. So, solution to that is to ensure to foster a culture that encourages regular breaks and having discussions about workload management. You've got operational disruption as well. So, extended leave taken all at once could disrupt business operations, especially in small teams. So, planning ahead for leave and encouraging employees to take breaks throughout the year to avoid large build-ups. You've got the legal risk to it. So, employers really need to ensure compliance with awards and agreements, as some may mandate employees to take leave after a certain period. So, regularly reviewing leave balances and staying informed about relevant regulations is crucial.
Awesome, mate. Thank you. Um, okay, here's another employer. I have an employee who has been showing signs of burnout and stress. They've spoken to me about their workload, but I feel it is reasonable given we are a small business. Does this now mean I am obligated to reduce their work? And what can I do to make sure I am not at risk from claims? Hmm.
Okay, so look, it's not really a black and white answer, but to put it quite simple to you, as an employer, you are responsible for psychosocial safety, which includes addressing stress and burnout regardless of your business size. So you have an obligation to make sure that you are not so you're not automatically obligated to reduce their work, but you must take the steps to address their concerns to avoid risks like workplace health safety claims or workers' compensation claims for stress. So ignoring signs of stress can definitely expose you to legal risks and claims. So it's important to take steps to mitigate that. So, for example, reviewing workload. So, assess whether the workload is truly reasonable. Consulting with the employee, this is a really easy tool for employers to do. And I often stress that, it's a tool that you should put in place, which is just constant, transparent communication. So, having a conversation to understand the specific stresses, supporting work life balance. So, offering flexible hours if feasible, or reducing the workload if appropriate, monitoring mental health. So, encouraging leave, promoting the right to disconnect, and consider offering, if you have the resources, access to employee assistance programs. You've also got to keep in mind that documentation is the key to compliance. So, keeping records of all actions and conversations to protect against future claims as well is probably my best piece of advice.
Wonderful. I'm conscious of our time, but we've probably got time for one or two more. Here's another one. One of my employees has been on annual leave for 3 weeks. During this time, I got an SMS asking to extend their leave as they feel burnt out and need more time off. They don't actually have enough leave to cover this time. Am I at risk of anything or do I have to pay them?
Look, so in this case, the employee's mental health is probably the key factor to consider. You're not obligated to pay for leave beyond the employee's accrued entitlement. If they don't have enough leave, you can offer leave without pay, or if applicable, if they're claiming, it's for health reason, personal or carers leave, but I would be asking for supporting evidence like a medical certificate for that. So, in terms of the risk of claims, so be cautious not to force the employee to come back to work prematurely, as this could lead to claims under work health safety laws, such as stress leave and things like that. So, it's important to, I guess, think of accommodating some of these requests. So consider offering unpaid leave or, personal carers leave if they don't have that accrued entitlement if, in terms of annual leave. But again, always asking for supporting evidence such as a medical certificate if you were to allow for that other use of leave. And then if you do have the resources, direct them to an EAP, or sometimes if employers don't have resources such as that, I say, even linking them to free tools such as Beyond Blue and things like that are very helpful. And in the event that it is quite severe in terms of, they're claiming mental health and things like that, I also would potentially, if needed, go to the step of asking them to get a fit for work certificate prior to them returning. But again, that is if the situation is needing for it. And I would definitely recommend, consulting an expert like someone in our team, our workplace relations team, to help you make that decision. So in terms of best practices, offering flexible working options or gradual return plans if necessary, and also important, I can't say this enough, but documenting everything, because it honestly is the tool to help show that you had that foundation, you considered their request, you genuinely thought about it, and if it was unreasonable, you had a reasoning behind rejecting it, or if you were actually being accommodating, you can show that you were actually supporting this request and you were taking into consideration that employee's well-being.
Tash, thank you so much for your time and thoughts today. I think we'll leave it there from a time perspective. But, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, I'd be super happy to help. You can reach me on A for Alpha, S for Sierra, M for Mike at Citation Group, or else our contact details are now up on the screen. If you do have a question from today's session, particularly if you're unsure where it stands, if it's transcending into that area around psychosocial mental health, it is a particularly sticky area. Take the guesswork out, call one of the advisors. They'd be more than happy to help and give you some advice to hopefully guide you through and resolve the situation. Other than that, thank you so much for your attention today and for giving up your time to attend. We do hope to see you at the next webinar, but until then, stay safe and we'll see you soon. Thank you.